You're listening to the First Fight Podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. Welcome back. In this episode, I get the opportunity to chat with another pioneer of the MMA game, Matt Serra. Matt is a legendary fighter, coach, gym owner, and father. He's also the co-host of the MMA staple podcast, UFC Unfiltered, and reality show Dana White Lookin for a Fight. Matt's exposure to martial arts at a young age led him on a wild ride that began with a tough man contest in Manhattan refereed by Mr. T. He shares this experience, his journey to the octagon, his evolution as a fighter, and the scare that pushed him to hang it up. Such a treat to be able to get him and his stories added to my archives. He's a big personality and a great guy. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you guys do too. Today I have a special guest, the legendary Matt Serra. Thank you for coming on and taking the time. I know you're a busy man, living that retired life.
Go ahead, I'm talking over you. What were you saying?
What led you to your first fight? I know you've done martial arts throughout your life.
Well, the first time I ever even did anything combat sport related, besides like a season of wrestling, I guess you consider a combat sport, but with striking involved, I did a tough man contest at 18 years old in Manhattan at this club called the Palladium. And Mr. T was the referee. I've talked about this before. And it was 175 and up, so I just made the weight limit because I'm not a big guy. And I ended up knocking a couple of guys out. I never sparred a day in my life. I had my buddy go with me there. My buddy Jim McCluskey was a professional boxer. And he would tell me, look, just stand sideways so you're less of a target. He goes, and I see you knock people out. Just throw those hands. So I went in there, and it's my first time ever really fighting something other than a street fight, you know? And it was good. I laid out a couple of guys, a couple of battles. I beat a kid from Long Island. They called him, he was a platoon leader in Desert Storm. They introduced him, and they introduced me as a weightlifting pizza boy I used to deliver pizzas from Long Island. But I knocked him out. He was the smallest guy in there besides me. It was me and him were like the smallest guys. And then I fought a tough guy from Jersey, a really tough guy. And I beat him. But, I think I got my bell rung a bunch. So I shouldn't have went back in. That thing, let me tell you, Jenny, I had the worst concussion after this thing, my whole fighting career. After this event, because you're not supposed to fight 3 times in one night anyway. And with just hands, and I wasn't even an amateur boxer. I was horrendous. So, but I was just a powerful kid. So my third fight, I ended up I got through it, but I lost. To this day, not to gross you out, but listen to this. You hear that? I got a shitty mic too. You hear this?
Yeah.
That's my jaw from that event, that fight, that tough man contest. I thought I broke my jaw, and because I couldn't bite down, I couldn't eat. They said no, it was like it wasn't broke, but I don't know, man, it was fucked. So to this day, I still get that. But that was my first experience ever, any kind of fighting, you know.
So your background before that was wrestling. You were into jiu-jitsu already?
No, not at all.
No?
I did at 18 years old when I did that thing.
Okay.
I didn't have, I was studying some tapes of the Gracies back then. You got to understand, this is like 1992.
Yeah.
So I went to my first seminar in Waterbury, Connecticut with the Gracies, Horion and Hoist, and this was a year before the first UFC. Jenny, I'm old. You understand? Well, listen. So this was 92. So in 92, I went to a seminar in Waterbury, Connecticut, and it was the Gracies, and that's when I got introduced to that. That was after I did that tough man contest, you know. But I seen a tape of the Gracies already, called Gracie in Action. If you've never seen that, I'm sure Corey's seen that. But if you haven't seen that, it's an amazing tape because it was before mixed martial arts. It was basically before anybody knew jiu-jitsu. So it was the Gracie family versus other styles, whether it was in competition, in a ring somewhere, Vale Tudo matches in Brazil, or even challenge matches in dojo fights. But it was jiu-jitsu versus boxing, jiu-jitsu versus karate. So that's what I really was like, whoa. When I was growing up, I hate to ask your age, but what are you? In your mid-30s?
37.
Okay. I said mid. I was about to say late 20s. You heard that? But
Thank you.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah. Growing up, we didn't know what real fighting was. That's what's so amazing about the generation. Everybody now, the kids growing up now, they grow up knowing what mixed martial arts. They know what real fighting is. When I was growing up, oh my goodness, who would win between Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme? Oh, look at this Jeff Speakman guy with that Kenpo shit. You didn't know what worked. And if a karate master said he comes forward and you kick this guy and his knee comes off, some guys believed him, some guys didn't. And it was always the great debate. But, now when I found the tape of the Gracies back in 1992, I go, holy shit, because I thought I was a tough kid. Every high school's got their whatever, the toughest kid in high school type of thing. But when I saw this tape of these little Brazilian guys strangling people, it did not sit right with me knowing that there's people on this earth that could do that to me and I wouldn't be able to do anything. So I knew I had to learn that stuff. So when I seen that in Black Belt magazine, again, this was before it sounds so old. This is before the social media and you can see where there's seminars and this and that. You'd have to get these like magazines, right? So Black Belt magazine, there's a seminar coming in Connecticut. So I went to that seminar and I knew that, I was going to somehow learn this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I kind of went off there. I tried to give you more than what you asked for, Jay.
No. Keep
yeah,
going.
So that was that.
I mean, so where did you go from that first competition?
Well, that tough contest, I just went home with a concussion. And I'm telling you right now, I remember thinking to myself, like days afterwards going, I hope I get better. Because I remember just saying things that were a little, I felt almost punch drunk. It was so strange.
Yeah.
I in all my years of fighting since, I never had a concussion like that.
What type of gloves were you using?
I'm not sure. I don't know how big they were, to be honest. But, I don't know how something like that gets sanctioned. Again, we're talking 92. I don't know. I don't know how
it was.
What's that?
It probably wasn't sanctioned.
It was crazy. I don't think it was. I don't know. They showed a clip of it on Entertainment Tonight, and you see like the producer Mary Hart making faces, and I gave myself a mohawk at the time. Anyway, I was a crazy kid.
Yeah, you're a wild kid, I'm sure,
but,
from the start.
But that was, that was the opposite of the philosophy that I had to learn and adapt when I started learning jiu-jitsu. Because Henzo came over in the mid-90s, and he took me under his wing. And in the beginning, it's like with my fighting, like I had to change my philosophy from being a street fighting kid to going into the philosophy of do not exchange at all, because you just want to get that fight to the floor, closing the distance safely, and that jiu-jitsu mentality. But then everything comes almost full circle, where I had to evolve again and say, all right, thank goodness I'm blessed with heavy hands. So now everybody knows jiu-jitsu. If I didn't evolve, I never would have got a title. So I never would have got my shot. So it's a strange journey.
So you remind me of Frankie Edgar. You have that fighting spirit, like you'd be fighting even if you weren't doing it for your job. So where do you get that from, would you say? Like, is there something growing up that kind of formed you that way?
I think that I was always interested in combat, especially hand-to-hand combat. Strange. Well, my father was a martial artist. He's a retired. He's a black belt under Henzo Gracie, but he used to do Wing Chun Kung Fu, and I used to do hours of just combat sticky hand drills with him. It was fun. But even back then, when I'd get into a fight, I might start with like a trapping chain punch, and then I do a double leg I learned from wrestling. So I knew the grappling was the way to go. But my father got me involved early on. He never watched traditional sports. I always felt almost like a misfit growing up. Not totally, but I played sports with my friends, like in the court down the block, and in the like whether it's baseball, football on the field, my friends, like stuff like that. But I never did it in the school. I didn't really even know the rules unless it was soccer. Like, and still, I don't even watch the Super Bowl now. I'm not into anything with a ball. It's strange.
Yeah.
It's strange for being such an alpha. No, I'm like, but it's otherwise. I'm into like my father. Like when everybody's doing their little league and watching these games, my father had me like. I remember watching Bruce Lee movies with him and Kung Fu theater and stuff like that. So I was always into it. I was always into the martial arts and the fighting, whether it be stupid. Like I always wanted to see who was the best, whether it be fantasy things between my father would throw at me like whatever. Hey, who would win between the Hulk and Colossus, or Godzilla versus King Kong, or Bruce Lee versus Chuck Norris if they fought for real? And then there's this guy named Gene LaBelle. My father would tell me these. So I mean, I was like, it always obsessed with fighting. It's straight. I don't know.
It's not like common. I mean, even me growing up, not a lot of kids did martial arts. It was more like a team sports thing. So I'm sure, not that you, like you said, you're kind of a misfit. I'm sure it was different that you grew up with that versus like baseball or whatever most kids.
Hey, I wasn't. It's not the way I was. It's not the way. I just wasn't. My father wasn't into it, so I guess I wasn't into it.
Well, it's no surprise.
You can't like something you just don't like. Like I remember being like, all right, let me try to give this thing a shot. I jumped on and I even tried to, like, I'm like, my buddies are on the football team. Let me try that. Let me try the wrestling. I don't know. I wish I had jiu-jitsu as a kid. I did not get along with coaches. I did not get, and I don't know if it's an authority thing, because now as an adult, I look back and I go, you know what? They were assholes. It wasn't me. I would say to them, I'm a 47-year-old man now. I'd look back and go, no, now that I'm working with kids, I have 3 daughters of my own, 13, 10, and 8. I'm doing that kids class. I'm like, there's one thing with giving tough love, and there's another thing just being a dick. This is why I never got along with Matt Hughes. I don't like that attitude. It's just not, I don't know what it was. It just irked me. I'm like, no, man. I am sure. Like, what are you talking about? What kind of attitude? What do you mean?
There's like yelling and there's constructive yelling. Like.
No, I get it.
I don't mind being yelled at, but if they're being a jerk, then I have no respect.
Hey, let me tell you, Jenny. There's a meme over the last weekend of me giving some tough love to one of my female fighters, Lauren Bracha, and it's some people might think it's rough. What's that?
They were going to have us fight once years ago.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
Shoot. How many fights did you have?
Like 7 in MMA.
Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. Listen, I didn't even know you fought, to be honest. Not to be a dick.
I was never a pro. But we were the same weight.
Oh, that's so funny. No, Lauren's, she's listening.
She's good, right?
She's very good. And she's better than she fights. And she's better than she believes. So. Mm-hmm. When I see her not doing what I see she can do, I get a little annoyed. So there was a thing over the weekend. It was on Work the Clinch or Work in the Clinch, whatever meme it was, but it was hysterical. It was the best corner of ice you'll ever hear. And it was basically me just yelling at her. And at one point I'm like, then mount and throw a puncher in a fucking fight. Like, I don't know. I forget that I'm mic'd up,
Well, you know what they need and what they can handle. Like, people on the outside don't know your relationship. They have no idea.
No, exactly. But no, I don't feel bad about it. But it's just as a fighter, sometimes you got to do and I'm sure you coach as well.
I used to teach like women's kickboxing, and I started in Muay Thai in Milwaukee at Rufus Sport, and that's kind of that's how I met
How'd you meet your husband? How'd you meet Corey?
There.
Oh, I love this sport. I didn't know he went there for a little bit.
Well, he was in Illinois, so he would drive up there because that was a bigger gym, and then he got on Tough right away, so he was kind of out of there.
Now you're married to a superstar.
Yeah.
Congrats. Tell him I say congrats on all the success. Things happen.
Thank you.
He's doing great.
He's really hitting his stride, so.
That's great, man. Time. And, that whole crew, Mark Henry, Ricardo Almeida is like a brother to me, so.
Oh, he's my favorite jiu-jitsu instructor I've ever had. He's amazing.
I know, he's great. Oh, no, Ricardo's amazing. and he's an amazing person. He's done a lot for me. He's one of those guys where I wouldn't have. Like, you got guys that help mold you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man. He was always like bigger. Bigger. He'd fight in a bigger weight class. He's a bigger dude. So him attacking me my whole time with Henzo's, we were like main training partners, and we used to have such battles, and it really it helped hone me to achieve what I achieved. So I love that guy. And he's such a great guy.
It's an amazing team here. Corey found the perfect place to be. So
that's it. It reminds me of my team over here. You keep it quaint. I'm not looking to enlist we're not looking to enlist anybody. I like taking our homegrown guys, and if something happens organically, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not out there. I don't need to put my face in the corner. I don't give a shit. I only go because you think I'm making money with these guys in AC? I don't give I get one of my black belts. I do a road trip, and I try to spread the love.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Circle of life. But are you still rolling regularly?
No, not since the babies. No, they get in the way of that. I'll be back though eventually.
My wife, who never did a school sport, right, and she was between each kid, she would work, do some kickboxing to lose the weight. So she's 38, so she's around your age. She's a little younger than me. So then, she got addicted to the kickboxing, and she was getting good. She's working this girl, Carol Colombo, who came up with me on the Longo, who's a little drill sergeant. So we actually got her a fight. She fought at the Capitale, which I'm sure you've been at the Capitale in the city, where there's plenty of kickboxing matches there in the Lou Neglia. And my wife had a kickboxing match there, and she won an amateur kickboxing match. So it was an amazing thing.
That's so cool.
You never knew that? I don't know how much.
No, I think I saw on social media that your wife was.
I was proud of that because she was never in a school sport. She never competed. So the deal. You competed in front of those big lights. And
that's the hardest part.
Bright lights. So so that's wild. So it's amazing what martial arts could do. Now she's rolling jiu-jitsu too, but it's amazing what martial arts could do for one's, self-confidence and just for one's swagger.
Well, that's why I do this. I think it's really, like I said, transformative experience. Question for you is what is the process you would go through, like in the back before a fight?
In the back before a fight, my 20s and my earlier career was a lot different than my later career. I was more zen in my 30s. In my earlier career, early in my career, I should say, in my 20s, I was more of a street fight mentality I don't know. I'd be backstage kicking chairs and stuff. It's nothing I would do. Listen, I don't judge anybody about how they act backstage because I know what it's like to fight. You know what it's like to fight, the emotions. I've seen guys cry, not because they're scared, but just because of that's the way they deal with it. Mm-hmm. I've seen guys take naps. I've seen guys amped up. I've seen guys do a cardio session that would put guys would exhaust a marathon run. I've seen Aljo Sterling just do fucking 12 workouts. I go, dude, you got to slow it down. Mm-hmm. So, you have different people with different methods, So unless it's just something totally stupid and going to hurt the guy or hurt somebody else, I'll let them be themselves before they got to fight. And myself, towards the end, I was very much in the zone. At the end, in my 30s, I'm going to say from the St. Pierre fight on, you'd see a difference with me. Well, I used to sprint to the cage. Back when I first started fighting, there was a ramp. I used to run down that ramp, with a hat on backwards, take that off, take my tank top off. And it was like I was like in a street fight. But later on, it was more, I enjoyed the walkout, slapping hands. I knew I did my work. And so I'd say from the St. Pierre fight on, it was just a different backstage experience. Way more enjoyable.
Soaking it in.
Yeah, because it's not going to be there. That's when you start to realize you're not going to be making that walk forever.
Yeah.
So, and you're more secure with your abilities. You got more time clocked in with all areas. I used to hype myself up. I'm like, I'm going to have to go through some shit to get a hold of this motherfucker. I used to be like that.
Yeah.
And I'll get cut out, going to get a hold of him. I'm going to put him down. I didn't have to do that as much with all the timing I'd put in over the years with the sparring where I knew I didn't have to just be the guy with longer reach to be the guy with more longer reach. And I don't know, it gives you confidence everywhere. So you're kind of in the zone everywhere instead of just one area where I was, in the beginning, more of just that jiu-jitsu guy, aggressive jiu-jitsu guy. But, that's how I was in the beginning.
When did you know it was time for you to be done? Was that a hard thing for you to accept and change in your life?
No, I knew the mentality was starting to change, and that was confusing. But at the same time, like I remember, there was a guy I don't even remember his name, but it was a guy that won a fight. He beat Dennis Holman, and then he called me out. And in the past, if somebody mentioned my name, I would take it very to heart. And it was just not bad because we were fighting in a cage. And I would get nasty over it. And I'd curse him over it. And I'd be like, how dare you mention my name? I'm going to make him pay and yada, yada. And I remember I was literally walking out the door to go to the park with my wife and at that point I had 2 kids. And I remember we had the wagon. And I remember hearing the guy saying something about me and not giving a shit. I mean, I'm going to the park. And so I knew that wasn't right. I go, that's not where my head should be. And then shortly after that, I had a health scare where I was training one day and my arm blew up, right? Well, before that, I was having a pain in my side when I was laying down. I'm like, what is that? It's weird. So I went to the doc in the box. You ever go to those fucking walk-in clinic? Well, the walk-in, you don't have to get the walk-in clinics, whatever, the walk-in doctors. So I went in there. They gave me an x-ray. They go, oh, were you sure you didn't get kicked there or anything? I go, no, I didn't get I know if I got kicked there because they knew what I did. So I don't know. They chalked it up for they didn't, maybe I pulled something. I don't know. So then sure enough, maybe a week after that, with this pain in my side, I was training one day, and then I felt like I pulled something, and my arm blew up, right? Blew up. So I'm like, what is that? And I feel like I got a pump. It felt weird. And then it was a Wednesday. So for a couple of days went by. I went to Friday night. I went to Atlantic City for the fights, as like I just went to over the weekend. And I remember starting to feel just like, man, I feel off, man. A little sleepy, a little off. So I'm usually very energetic, obviously. So then I got to a point where I couldn't even touch my collarbone. Couldn't do this. I'm like, I could have got around here. So I got back. When we drove back, me and my buddies, I slept the whole way back from Atlantic City, a few hours back to Long Island. Got to my in-laws with them. We had dinner. Took a nap after that. Went back to my house around 12 at 1 in the morning. And that's when I told my wife, I go, look. And she was pregnant with my youngest, my who's now 8 years old. So I go, look, I'm going to the hospital because your body knows when something's wrong. It just knows.
Yeah.
I go, look, I'm going to go to the ER right now because I think I don't know if I'm going to wake up if I go to sleep. I'm not trying to freak you out. I swear, I was weird. Your body I'm telling you, when something's like dire wrong with you, when something's legitimately wrong, I think your body knows and you know. So I remember being like, yo, something's off. I don't know what the fuck this is. I thought I just pulled something. I went and I got the other thing checked. I wasn't even thinking on my side. Long story short, I go to the ER. The guy's doing an ultrasound on me, right, on my arm. And we're talking. He was a jiu-jitsu guy. So we're talking, and then he got quiet. Because he's not allowed to tell me if they find something. So he found a blood clot, right?
Oh, my God.
So then there was another blood clot in my lung when they did it. So they're like, yo, they gave me blood thinners, and they didn't, it's a little emotional because my wife showed up. She was pregnant.
Oh, my God,
crying. Yeah, it was a rough one. So, they did a surgery on my arm where they had to remove the blood clot. They had to flush it out, which was fucking brutal. That was worse than what they had to do after that. What they had to do after that was the reason why I was getting these blood clots. I had something called thoracic outlet syndrome, where my collarbone and my first rib were constricting my arteries. It happens to powerlifters. It's just the way you're wired. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not a big weightlifter, but I do a lot of push-ups. Something happened where they look, we got to do a surgery where they came in and they cut out my first rib. It's weird. So they cut out my first rib so that way it would open up and the blood flow would go and it wouldn't be constricting. So that's what they did. So after that health scare, I was 37. I go, you know what? I'm out. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it was a close call, but I'm still here. And it makes you see what's important and whatnot,
It's
So
it's
that's when I knew it was time to walk away. See, that question got you a lot of fun. That got some mileage on that question.
no, that's a crazy story.
Crazy.
It's
Yeah,
just like
it's insane.
amazing what your body can take, and it's also amazing how fragile it is. You're so familiar with that doing what you do for a living, and to
Right?
see how easy it is, it's hard to have that same mindset going forward.
I'll tell you. But since then, it's I was ready just to walk off and just go to myself. Well, what I do is I love my academy. It's what I do. I go to my schools, always good vibes. It's my crowd. Any douches, I get them right out of there. So it's a good crowd. Got my kids training, my wife training, a lot of students, great students, ton of black belts, the jiu-jitsu school. We got the kickboxing there also, but that's where I like to spend my time. That's my retirement.
Yeah.
And then some other things fell on my lap. Like I never thought I'd do anything but a podcast. I was doing a show. Well, first Dana White looking for a fight. Dana calls me, says, "Oh, I do a show with? I can't assume you know, but I do a show with Dana White called Dana White.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell your audience. They might not know. Called Dana White Looking for a Fight. It's on YouTube. Myself, Dana, Dean Thomas, looking for talent for the UFC and do some wacky shit on there. It's fun. It gets a lot of hits. And I did we're on our 21st show or something. We did so many shows. But that thing got approached to me, and it was supposed to be the premise of Dana. I did the pilot episode. This is what I'm talking about with opportunities. This is like the story of my life. I get a call, and they're like, look, Dana's going to do this show called Dana White Looking for a Fight. And with each episode, he's going to bring a different fighter. So for the pilot episode, he wants to bring you because I'm cool with Dana, And not a lot of people are. No, he rarely gets along with, I get along with him very well, But so he goes, look, we're going to bring you for the pilot episode to try to sell this thing, whatever it is. So all right, cool, I'm in. So we went. Next thing you know, I almost strangle a fight. I get to a verbal altercation with some idiot fucking announcer, ring announcer, and it got a lot of fucking hits. So next thing you know, you're a regular. I go, all right, good. I got kids. So I got that gig going for me. And then when I started doing that, so I'm like, look, this is the perfect thing in my retirement. Do this show with Dana once in a while. Because I'm a homebody. I don't go nowhere. I go do this, go back, hang out at the school, do my thing. If I want to do a seminar once in a while, I could do that. Not really. Go corner the guys fighting. That's the retirement. So then one day we're camping. And Dana, that's funny to say because Dana's the first and last time Dana ever went camping. Not many people could say they shared not many people could say they shared a tent with Dana White, but I did, and it was hysterical. But on that episode, he goes, "Look, we're looking to do a podcast, and what do you think about that?" I go, "I don't think I'm interested." At first, he thought it was gonna be me and DC. He was like, and I go, "I don't know. and I like DC." I go, but everything's about chemistry, and I think that would just be us. What are we gonna be arguing about stuff? And I don't know. I'm not interested. Then he brought up Jimmy Norton. I go, you know what? I did the Opie and Anthony show. I know that Jimmy's a nice guy. I go, okay, I'll try it. And now, shit, man, what are you doing now? Jimmy's that little bird. He's one of we're really close friends now, and we do that now. That thing's been going for a while. UFC Unfiltered. So I'm a lucky dude.
Yeah.
Jennifer, I got 3 gigs, and one is more fun than the other. You know what I mean? So
it's the dream, really.
It literally is the dream. I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. This is the American dream right here. Yes.
You don't gotta fight anymore.
I don't gotta fight anymore. And I'll tell you, I haven't sparred a day since I got done fighting. But I do my jiu-jitsu at least how many days a week. As we were just talking, I got a text from 2 of my black belts. I'm rolling with them at 5 o'clock. It's the only thing I do to basically stay in shape now.
Yeah.
Because my knees are fucked.
Yeah. Well, jiu-jitsu is perfect for that.
Phenomenal.
Bad for all your other joints. So.
Yeah, I'm not doing any marathons or walking around Disney, but still, I can still be dangerous, so that's good. All right, Jennifer.
Thank you so much. One last question.
Yes.
What is fighting to you?
What is fighting to me? Well, fighting in a way, fighting is my life. You know, I don't think you choose to be a fighter. You be, it somehow things happen in your life, or it's already in you and it comes out of you, and you get molded into a fighter. But fighting, and I'll say martial arts because that's what fighting is to me, is a necessity of life to me and for my family. I have 3 daughters. They're all training. My wife, she trains. They have other interests. 2 of my daughters love dance. Third one doesn't give a shit. But whatever passions they're into, I encourage it. But fighting, being able to fight, being able to defend yourself is a necessity of life. Like being able to read, like being able to walk, or not walk. I mean, people can't walk, but like it's a necessity as far as like drinking and breathing and everything else. I often point to, like with a new student or if somebody who I say you should try jujitsu, and they go, I'm not a fighter. And that's what I get. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, or I'm not into that. I'm out of shape. Or it's not even about that. Mm-hmm. And not to get too deep, it's more, you don't have to be a fighter. You don't choose when a problem is going to find you, or when there's evil in this world. And if somebody tries to harm you or your family, someone tries to take your kid, someone breaks into your home. I was in a cafe, and I'm pretty sure you probably saw this video that went viral. And there was a guy, unruly customer, patron, and he was started getting really nasty with the waiters and the waitresses. And he got up, and when I got up, he directed everything towards me. And part of my language, listen, I might not be the size of Corey, but I don't look like a pussy. I don't look like a guy that you really kind of want to mess with. I'm not the tallest man, but I kind of look like a little Rottweiler. So for this guy to look at me, and this guy was drunk off his ass, and for him to, in front of my wife and kids, and go, you got a fucking problem? I'll fucking... Now, I ask you this, Jennifer, and this is what I ask any of my students. What if that was them?
Yeah.
I don't choose to be in that situation. I'm not out at a bar. I'm not out at a club. People usually are like, look, I don't put myself in a situation where problems are going to occur to me. I was in a cafe at Red Rock. I was purposely trying to avoid stuff. It was the next day I was going into the Hall of Fame. I was a quiet time with my family. This guy brought this to me. If I didn't know how to defend myself, if I didn't know how to fight, martial arts, the art of fighting, if I didn't know it, I'm getting my ass handed. How can I look my wife, kids in the face after that? It would be traumatizing for everybody involved. Instead, I went viral. We got a new jiu-jitsu student or 2 from it. No, I'm only kidding. But it is good. I placed any of my students in that same situation. They train with not only me, any jiu-jitsu, a reputable jiu-jitsu school. For 6 to 8 months, they're handling it the same way. Maybe not as cool as I did, but they'll handle it. I'm only kidding. Listen, that's what I feel. I point to anybody who would say, yeah, I don't need any kind of training. I'm not a fighter. You don't have to be, but you should be able to defend yourself and your family. End of story. Like a fucking mic drop. Boom.
See, you had it in you. I knew.
I'm out of my mind. Tell Corey I said hello, and I'm not looking to get hooked up with anything, but I'm sure he makes some deer jerky or something. I mean,
yeah, he does. You want some deer jerky?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not saying I did you a favor or solid, but you did. I don't know. You didn't have to beat down the door to get me on this thing. You asked me once I got on. If your husband wants to send over some deer jerky,
I got you.
You know what I mean?
You.
Very much. Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Matt Serra for taking the time to come and share his stories. It was really a pleasure listening to them. I really appreciate it. I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did, and we will see you next week with another interesting person to share some interesting stories. Have a good one.